Right, so we are back and welcome to Innotex HTML5 course. In this video, we are going to be looking at how to introduce a form into our HTML document. Okay, all right, so let's dive right in. Now, to include a form into your HTML document, you need to start off with form, right? And the action we are going to talk about this soon. Let's just keep that empty. All right, now obviously you need to start off with the form tag as we have done. Second, there are two things you need to know here, right? So label, you need to know the label tag and the input tag. So we have the label and the input tag. All right, okay, so let's say we want to create a form and the first line of text says input your name or input your first name. So in the label you're going to have first name, and that's what the user is going to see by the space where the person needs to fill, and the input will be where the person fills in the first name. Okay, so the type obviously is text since the name is made up of letters and well alphanumeric um, characters. All right, so the type should be text, the id, so we need to give it an id, and that id should be the same as what is in this for, right? So the label and the input should be tied using this id. So I'm just going to give it first name. All right, and same thing here, first name. Okay, and you can give it a name as well, which is what your browser is going to identify this particular input as. So if you give it maybe you're giving in John, right, as the first name, it's going to be stored. So the name attribute is going to be stored as John. So let's just say first name. Okay, so let me repeat myself. If you give in a name, let's say John, right, then you're going to see first name. So this first name will be um given the value John. All right, so name and placeholder. Now placeholder is basically what the user is going to see in the space where the person is supposed to fill in maybe the name in this case. So I'm just going to say John, right? Okay, so if I save this and I refresh my page now, good, you see the start of our form. So this is our label, right? First name, as you see here. The name, the id, the type, the for, you're not going to see that on the page. You're only going to see the input, the place where you're to input the name, and you're going to see the placeholder. The placeholder is John. So if I start typing J, it disappears, but once it is empty, it shows John. All right, now if we want to make this particular form required, you simply give it required. You could say required equals maybe true to mean that, but once you write required, it means it's true. If you don't write it, means it is false. So it's best to just write it as required. Now there's also what we call auto complete, right? So if you maybe so I'm just going to keep that on. If you maybe typed your name here before, right? So whenever you're coming back to this form, as you click on it, you should see a drop down maybe with the previous things you wrote, right? So you can just click to maybe make things fast once you're typing in. Another attribute we are going to be looking at is autofocus. Autofocus basically, okay, right now you can see my cursor is not on the, it's not like blinking right on that particular form. But if I keep autofocus on, then once I open the page, my cursor already starts blinking in first name, and I just need to maybe type in the name I want to type in. All right, so let me save this and refresh. Good, so you see it's already blinking, my cursor is already there, and I can just start maybe um Innotech. All right, okay, so that is fine. And after maybe after we are finished looking at forms, you're going to now see that we cannot submit this document unless we fill in our first name. All right. Okay. So let me put this in a paragraph tag. No, not an object. Sorry. Paragraph. All right. So let's now add in maybe um let's add in a last name. All right. So shift alt down to copy this below, as we saw in the last video. Right. So I'm going to good. So once I've highlighted first name, you see this first name here, first name, all of these first names are highlighted. Now for me to edit all of them at the same time, I press Control D. You see the cursor goes to this one. I press Control D, goes to this other one. If I press Control G, it's also go to this one, but I don't want to edit this ones here, right? Just this one. So first name, then I can now change that to last name. Okay, so everything changes to last name except this because it's not the same as the others. So I need to edit that myself. Okay, the placeholder should not be John anymore because we don't want someone's name to be John. We could say John Doe. Okay, now note autofocus should only be on one of your input. You should not have auto because your cursor cannot be focused on many inputs, right? So it should just be on one. All right, so if I save and I refresh, good. So you see form, name, last name. You could also make that required, no problem. All right, so let me add in telephone number, right? Okay, so Control D, so I can change that to tel, meaning a phone number. So yeah, tel, and I can change this to phone number, so that's what the person sees. Okay, and the placeholder obviously should not be though, right? I could just maybe give some random numbers here. That. All right. Now let's say generally height. So autocomplete on, yes. Name, ID. Good. The type should not be text. It should be tel. Tel for phone number. So we use tel as the type. All right. So how many numbers are here? I guess it's fine. Now there's what we call a pattern, right? So we don't just want someone to just give in maybe 5 million numbers and then our pharmacy accepts that. So we should at least give a pattern that if we see that this pattern is not obeyed, then we tell the user that no, please obey this pattern. All right. So basically, phone numbers, I think they are 11 or 12 figures long, starting with a plus sign. So but I'm just going to ignore the pluses, right? So no one should input the plus. I just want the numbers, right? So as I've done here, 555. All right, so I want numbers only. So numbers from zero. So I put this bracket. This is now programming, but anyways, you could see just follow up. So 0 to 9. Sorry, 0 to 9 years, and I want 11 or 12 numbers. So I want characters between 0 to 9, 11 or 12 times. That means between 11 or 12, basically 11 or 12 times. And if I save and I refresh, anyways, when we will be looking at the submit button, you realize that if someone puts in maybe two numbers, it's going to be 59. All right. So let's look at how we can input maybe an email. Again, as we have seen, Control D to select all these things. I'm just going to say email. Okay, and the placeholder obviously will not be 555. It's going to be let's just say example at gmail.com, which seems very good. All right, so there is no particular pattern that it's quite easy for us to just, like, print out there, but it should have at then a domain name. Although I don't want to get into the programming, so let's just leave out the pattern for now. It should just accept anything as the email. But it should be of type email. All right, and yeah, it should be required. What we should see here should not be phone number but email address. All right, so phone number. Okay, so I think this looks good. Next up, let's add in a place for a password. So Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, password. No, not capital P, password. Alright, so only here should I have a capital P. And obviously the placeholder, if you can guess quite well, it should be something just random, right? But let me just say hidden. So hidden. Alright, so if I save and I refresh, good. So you realize this is our form now. And once I start typing, right? So let me type. Good. You realize that you're not seeing what I'm typing, you're just seeing dots, right? Good. So that's fine. And the autocomplete should not be on because we don't want someone to just come into your laptop and then tap the password button and your password already fills in for the person. It won't be good. Yeah. All right. What next? What next? Last name, phone number, email address, password. Um, yeah, I think so far this is fine. So let's look a bit now on another type of form. So, all right. So let me. So I want all of this particular section of my form to be called maybe personal information. Like yeah. So I am just going to um do use a tag that we call field set, and I'm going to put all of this inside that field set. So cut it and paste inside that field set. All right, yeah, and in this field set I'm going to give it another sub tag called legend, and the legend well, you're going to actually see it in action. You're going to see what happens. So personal information. Let's see if and I refresh. Good. So you see, this is what the field set does. It creates this somehow a rectangular box, and the legend just gives it this name here, personal information. All right. So let me create another field set. Field set. And in this field set, I'm going to give it a legend. Let me think. What do you like? So I know I have used you instead of you, but yeah, let's just leave that as of now. All right, and so what I want to do now is I want to create a form here wherein the person has to maybe check, right, just check the things the person likes. Okay, so starting off, I am going to have probably, no, let me not say what do you like, what sport do you like. All right, so I'm just going to have some random sports, and the person is going to select the sport he or she likes. So I'm going to have a checkbox here. So I basically have an input, right? And this input is not going to be text but a checkbox. Okay, and this checkbox is going to have a name. All right, I'm just going to say sports. I'm just going to give it the name sports, and I'm going to give it an ID. I'm going to give it an ID. To give it an ID, and this ID is going to be football, right? And after this, I'm going to have a label. So the label is what you're going to see. Note this input is just create the checkbox. The checkbox. The label comes after the checkbox, and always remember football. If it's the ID, the four attribute here should also be the same. So football. All right, and in my label I'm going to have football. If I save and I refresh, so you see what sport do you like, and you see a checkbox here, right? So football. So let me give this put this in a paragraph so I can just select. So cut this, fish it here. All right. So I have everything set. I can now shift alt down, and so remember the name should be the same but change the ID, right? So because they're different things. So I'm just going to say tennis here. All right, and same here, tennis. So here should not be football, but as you can guess, tennis. Same thing again. Shift alt down. Sport, let's just say baseball. I don't have the time in the world um to actually give a whole um list of sports, but yeah, let's just work with this few that we have. So we have a checkbox here where the person can now check. Now notice the person can check more than one, but let's say we don't want the person to check more than one. We want the person to check just one, and if the person checks one, if the person tries to check another one, it does not allow the person. It deletes the previous one and then checks the new one. So I'm just going to create a new field set here. Now note what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use a greater than and legend. What this is going to do is going to create a tag called field set, and this greater than just means a child. So you have a child tag called legend. So if I press enter or tab, it's going to create a field set tag, and then inside that it's going to create a legend tag. All right, so you can see, and in this legend I'm going to say, what do you love eating, or what is your best food, your best meal. So we should not have more than one best meal, right? Yeah, so someone should not have more than one best meal. So I'm going to have an input which is going to create what we call a radio. So a radio is a small button, or a small like a dot, where if you click it you cannot click another one. All right, and the name should be the same. If the name is different, it's going to cause some small as we call in Africa, wahala. All right, okay, so input colon radio. This means we are going to give it an input, right? We are going to create an input tag, and we are going to give an attribute, a type, radio. Okay, so it gives it radio. The name I'm just going to say meal, right? And the ID I'm just going to give it arrow. So the label here will basically the 4 will be arrow obviously, and the label will be fufu and arrow. Voila. All right. Oh, I always keep on forgetting to put these things in paragraph tags so they can be spaced around them. You could still do that, but they will be somehow uh packed with one another. All right, so it's not good to do that. Okay, so control alt down as we have been singing here. Let me just give 3 meals. The second meal will not be arrow anymore. It's going to be let's say rice, right? Small letters, rice. All right, and here I'm going to have rice and stew. So rice and stew, good. Rice and stew. Yeah, I'm not going to have arrow. Let me think. Yeah, cocoyams. So let's say cocoyams and vegetables. So no, let's just say jollof rice. So jollof, right? So jollof rice. All right, so if I save and refresh, you see I have another field set with the legend called what is your best meal, and I have a radio button where I can click now, but I cannot check more than one. All right, good. So that's how you create a radio. Now you could be putting breaks here so that your forms are not really um packed, right? So breaks. All right, let's look at one more type. So let me put a break here, and this in this one we are going to have um uh how do I explain this? So we are going to have a drop down, right, where the person can click from if it's a set of options. Okay, so in this legend I'm going to say what is your best drink, right? So here the person is going to have an option. So I'm not going to have an input anymore. I'm going to have what we call a select tag, and I'm going to give it a name drink, all right, and an ID drink as well. So in this select tag you have what we call options, all right. So options, so starting off I have option 1, and the value is going to be um let me just give it the value beer. So let's start off beer. All right, the next option I'm going to have a value wine. All right, so remember I can put my cursor in front, shift alt down, it copies that, and I can change this to maybe whiskey. All right, so if I save, hopefully, okay, if I save and I refresh, realize I have um okay, I forgot. So I have to give an option here. So I gave the value but I did not give the option. So beer, wine, whiskey. So whiskey should be with Y. Anyways, I have some issues with Y on my keyboard. So alright, so we have a drop down. I can click this, you see wine, whiskey, beer, and you can select which one works for you. All right, so let me add in more options and show you something a bit more tricky. All right, so let me say Castel, which there are the different types of beers we have here. So Castel Expo, okay, um um which other one can I, let's just say wine. All right, the other one, let's say top, right, simple top soft drink. Let's say Planet. um which other one can we give here? Okay, let's just keep this. No. Okay, so we can, let me add one more option here. So shift all down, and I'm going to change this to origin. Okay, so if I save and I refresh, I now have a very long drop down. But what do you notice? Oh, I was given the same name. No wonder. Origin. Here should not be beer, it should be castle. I keep on forgetting. Here we have export. Here we have wine. Here we have top. Planets. What do I have? Planets. Okay, planets. And piggy. So if I save now and I refresh, good. So I have castle, export, orangine, wine, top. Now you realize that from wine above we have beers, and below we have soft drinks, right? So I can create a group which we call opt group, that's option group, where I can give it a label. Now it's not the same label tag that we saw before, it's different. So the label, well, you're going to see, so the label is going to be, I don't want to say hard drinks, let's just say beer, right? So I can put in wine, origin, castel, and the like in it. Okay, so I can copy all this and then tap up groups here as well. Up group, I'm going to give it a label soft drinks. So label soft drinks, drinks, and I'm going to put the rest. No, just from here. I'm going to put them inside there. Okay, so if I save and I refresh, you realize now the drop down is a bit different. So I have beer, which I cannot select. It just tells me that this is a group of beers, and below we have a group of soft drinks. Okay, so I can select, and yeah, I can make. Now if I want to make maybe multiple selections, right? So I go into the select tag and I type multiple. That will allow me to make multiple selections. So if I look at my drop down, I can now select this. I go and select Castel. So I can select multiple um drinks at the same time. I don't know why it's not select, but yeah, you can select multiple drinks at the same time unless I do not refresh. Okay, well, so far so good. Okay, so yeah, it should select multiple from the documentation. Anyways, that's fine. That's fine. So let me just stick with my one decision. So export or probably planet or top. Okay, so that is how you create a drop down. Now there is a different type of drop down where we are going to use data list, right? So let me do the same thing with this, but I'm going to use a data list. All right, so you have, let me create a new field set here, and I'm going to use actually the same um I'm going to use the same options as we have up there. So what is your best meal? All right, so what is your best meal? And yeah, so here you're not going to now have a select, you're instead going to have an input as we saw, and the type will be text. The name, um I could give it best, so not best meal but best. All right, and one other thing we are going to be, all right, so one other attribute we are going to be looking at here is a list, and the list here I'm going to have is a list of meals. All right, now directly below that I'm going to have what we call a data list. Okay, and this data list is going to, oh sorry, so I'm going to have data list. Oh, these people want me to create, okay, data list. All right, and in this data list I'm going to have various options, but I need to have an ID here, and that ID, no, why are they misinterpreting me? ID. All right, and the ID should be the same as this list, the value you gave to this list. So the ID there should be meals. All right, and the data list I'm going to have options. So options, but it's not going to have a closing tag in this case. So options, and I'm going to give a value. Let me give Castel. I'm going to add another option here. So option, and I'm going to give the value export. no closing tag for this particular option. um Control shift down. um Let me just say wine. All right, so wine, and I can leave it like this. So if I save and refresh, then I have a similar drop down, but this is different. Actually, in this particular type of drop down, I can actually, like, if it's a lot, I can actually start typing, and you realize it reduces to exactly what I want. I can actually maybe say castle, and it's there. Maybe if I want top, I press top, but there's no top, right? So yeah, this is another type of field set you may want to have. I said what is your best meal, but I was writing drinks. Anyways, all right, now the last thing we well, we are actually done with our forms. The last thing you are going to be we are going to be looking at is how to include a button into your form, right? So you may want to add a button to your form. So before this, I am going to, before the start of my form, I'm going to add an h2 tag here, and I'm going to say forms or contact us. All right, so a contact form. All right, and right down below, I'm going to add a button. And there are two ways to actually add it. You can add it using an input tag, right? So you could have an input tag here, and the type should be submit. All right, so you could have submit, but there's a lot more functionalities when you actually use a, sorry, the type should, yes, the type should be submit. Now when you actually use a button, it's different, right? So it gives you a lot more attributes that you can add to it. So the type here will be submit, and the button is going to say submit. All right, and I'm going to create another button that will reset everything. So the type here is going to say reset, yeah, and the button is going to say reset. So the person who is filling in your form can reset the form. So if I submit, it tells me I have to fill in this part. So everything that you made required will tell the user to actually fill in the part. Okay, so I need to put a break here. So BR. So you can go to the next line. You could put two BRs. Now to put two BRs, you could do this BR times two. Right, so it produces two BRs for you. Two break tags actually for you. All right, so I think this looks good, although I did not um what is your best meal? Why was this not in a field set? Anyways, that's no problem. That's not one of our main problem. Now for a bonus, um just to thank you for watching this video right up to the end, I'm going to show you how to create a search bar, right? So I'm going to create show you how to create a search bar. Now, oh, before even doing that, I totally forgot the action. So what should happen when someone maybe submits the document? So we are going to be looking at the action later on, but for now I'm instead going to use on submit, and I'm going to say greet. So I'm going to tell the browser to greet the person. Now greet is going to be a function I'm going to code using JavaScript. Although you have not learned JavaScript, but it won't be a problem for you to understand. Now let's talk a bit more about how to, or what the the action actually does. So I'm going to create um a search button here. So input, and the input is going to be if of type text. Okay, so the input is of type text. The name is going to be cure, short for query. Since we are doing searching, right, we'll actually need to be doing queries, right? So I'm going to give the name cure, and you're going to see in our browser where this is actually important. And I'm going to give this an ID, just simple search. All right. Okay. And nothing more. I'm not going to give it a label whatsoever. Just down below, I'm going to give an input type of button, right? And the value is going to say search. So I'm going to give it an input type of button, and the value is going to be search. All right, the action is going to be get http www.google.com/search. So what this actually does is, once the person clicks the search button, right, or when the person clicks the submit button, what should happen is um the form should actually get this particular URL. So the method is going to be get. So we are telling the form to actually get that uh button. Sorry, the yeah, we are telling them to get this google.com/search. So if I save and I refresh, now I want, before even doing that, I want autocomplete first of all, and yeah, just keep that on, or yeah, better still, let's keep that off. So let's not even keep that. Let's instead put autofocus, and we are going to remove it from our um first name, since I think I left it there. I left it there. So autofocus, remove it. All right. So autofocus is on. Yes, the value is search. Yes. Um, what else? Okay, in the input. No, no, no. Autofocus should not be here. Autofocus should be in the input. Okay. So autofocus, and I'm going to give it a placeholder called search. All right. So just give me a second. Let me turn on my hotspot. So all right, and I'm back. Sorry for this. So um I have successfully connected to my Wi-Fi, and yeah, so let's save this, and hopefully, let me even check it. Okay, the value. Oh, the type. No, no, no. The type should not be just a button. At least the type should be a submit button, because as we said, once you submit this, right, once you click submit, it should perform this action. So I was saying and writing the wrong thing. Okay, so it should not be a button. Save and refresh. You realize we have a search up here, right? And if I search maybe Inotech, right, although we are not on Google yet, but if I tap search, it should take me to Google. Voila. So it has taken you to Google, and you have someone with a domain name inotech.com, and yeah, a lot of inotechs out there. All right, and yeah, on your web page you can come and search for anything that you wish. So now let's before rounding off. Okay, that's 38 minutes. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, before rounding off, let's see what happens when you submit this form below here, right? So before doing that, I need to create a greet function, right? So I'll open my script tag where I'm going to be doing the JavaScript. I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to call that function greet. All right, and in this function I'm going to do something very simple. I'm just going to tell the user that thank you for using Inotech. Thank you for using Inotech, or for trusting Inotech. I think that makes more sense. Inotech. Voila. All right. Semicolon. So if I now save this, and let me first try my search button again. Go to, you see we have the autocomplete. If I search, it takes me to Inotech. Voila. Now what happens if I fill this form? So let me give it a name, Jeff, um hello, and I'm going to give a random phone number. So I've not given up to 11 digits there now. Good. Let's see what happens here. Technologies at gmail.com. All right. Password. I'm just going to give two characters. What sports do you like? Football and tennis. Fufu and Aero, obviously. Small top. Best meal. All right. So if I submit, good. So you see, it says we should match the pattern, right? Good, meaning that we did not give up to 12. So let me see, this is 3 3 3, so 9 10 11. I'm just add 1 5 again. Then if I save, no 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 no, if I try again to submit, good, it now tells you, the page now tells us that thank you for trusting Innotech. So it has called our greet function when we submitted. So on submit, as we give it up here, on submit we greet. All right. And the last bonus is going to be for the password, right? So basically, your password should be alphanumeric, and it should not be having two characters. So I'm just going to say, um, again, remember this is more of coding. So even if you're not understanding, there's no problem. So I have 0 to 9, 0 to 9, A to Z, capital A to capital Z. All of this, I don't want any other character except these characters, right? So I want only these characters, and I want them 8 or above, so above 8. So I can write 8 comma then maybe 100. Now there are other characters like there's a plus, there's a star, there's a lot more, but basically since you've understood this, I guess I don't want to stress you. So any value, any of these characters, 8 to 100 times. All right. So if I save and I refresh and I try filling in this again, so Jeff, hello, number, email. If I give 2 or 3 values there, I choose, well, these are not required, so there's no need for me to stress them. But it tells us that we should request or we should fill in. So if I add more values, try to submit again, it now works. Okay guys, thank you guys for watching the video right up to the end. If you watch it to the end, remember, we love you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for yeah, listening to us right up to the end, promoting us, promoting our videos. We really appreciate that. Okay, so I will see you in the next video where we'll be talking about how to embed YouTube videos into our website and how to upload our own local videos on our website, so they play on our website. All right, again, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.